Fun fact, actually this is not a fun fact. We're going to hear from Christian Easterday. I'm sure some of you have heard from Christian before, the Costa Fuego Copper Project in Chile. Did you know, 3 years ago, we almost lost Christian. He got involved in a chainsaw accident. Seriously, I've seen the photo. I said, should I put it up on screen? I went, no, it's before lunch. I will leave that. And no, as an Aussie, he wasn't drinking. He was the designated driver and had to drive for an hour and a half to get to the hospital. But he's back. And the scar's not too bad. Please welcome Christian Easterday. Come on up, Christian. He needs a bigger clap than that. I mean, seriously. And you weren't drinking.
Yeah, thank you. Excellent. Well, thanks for the introduction, Kerry. Not a memory of it at all, but certainly wasn't drinking. But good to be back here at Boca Raton. Back at Rick's conference and providing another update on what Hot Chili is doing over on the Chilean coastline with Costa Fuego. We've had a very, very exciting 12 months since we saw a lot of people at this conference last year. And if you're an investor last year, then you certainly would have a smile on your face with a near fourfold increase in the company's share price. Today I'll be really talking about what everyone's talking about with Hot Chili, which is our new discovery at Verde and what that's doing for the company, and give you some insights into the near-term catalysts that a very, very extensive amount of operations is progressing towards. Just firstly, on the company's performance, we're very, very strongly funded. We completed a $40 million institutional placement earlier in the year in Canada, Australia, in February, and we just recently, about 2 days ago, announced a transaction to extend OR royalties, 1% royalty on Costa Fuego, their original $15 million US royalty. We've now been able to extend that royalty onto Verde for an additional $15 million US, so we've effectively doubled the revenue take on that royalty. So the stock is performing very well. It's now covered in the S&P and the ASX 300, covered by many ETFs, and we're seeing a growing amount of institutional take-up in the stock and accumulation. What we're also seeing is very strong regional interest, and all of these things provide great see-through value for Hot Chili. So right in the middle of Hot Chili's sandbox, Costa Fuego, our billion-tonne resource base to the north and our new discovery at Verde to the south. One of the last pieces of the Costa Fuego puzzle was a project, a neighbouring project called Dos Amigos, and that project had not been yet consolidated by Hot Chili, but has recently seen a major investment by the Geniac family, backed by Sumitomo and Franco-Nevada. So certainly, line for line, a much smaller, earlier project with no access to water and infrastructure, and at a PEA level, attracting some very solid interest. We see that the market caps of most copper developers have re-rated. The copper price has been very strong. We're in a $6 environment now, and still Hot Chili providing that re-rate opportunity of about 2.5 multiple on any of the valuation metrics that you want to look at, whether it's recent M&A transaction, and well, I'm sure that I think Rick referred to the M&A copper orgy. I'm not sure that it's begun yet, but we're certainly seeing a lot of activity in the asset space and in mergers and acquisitions. So I'll be just focusing on Verde, the growth engine of Hot Chili at the moment, something that's looking likely to take that billion tonnes towards 1.5 billion tonnes by the end of the year. Look at how we're going to integrate that into Costa Fuego, providing a high-grade starter pit and transforming the economics, and also provide an update on our parallel business development opportunity with Huasco Water and our water rights that we have in the region. So coming back to the map, this project, as you know, this has been 18 years of my life since I founded Hot Chili, 16 years since we started developing Costa Fuego and consolidating this large part of the Chilean coastline, which sits next to undeniably the largest cluster of undeveloped projects in the world, with all of our high Andean neighbours, headlined by Vicuña with the BHP Lundin joint venture. We're in a position now to be able to submit our environmental impact assessment on Costa Fuego. That's expected to be submitted next year in Q2. And we have a big push by the company on all of those final EIA work streams. Most of our money, however, is being attracted to Verde and the discovery that we've recently consolidated in the south. So this has been very rapid. We got our hands on this about 18 months ago, consolidated under one company for the first time in many, many years. Gave us access to a porphyry footprint which had seen light drilling. And on the second hole, we had a very, very strong intercept from surface, some 300 metres at about 0.5% copper, 0.3 grams per tonne gold. So that was quite a long time ago now. Now we're starting to regularly put out world-class intercepts, 700-metre intercepts, 500-metre intercepts. What we're liking about Verde is how fast this high-grade core has grown. We're almost 17 diamond holes into this drill out. We're experiencing significant challenges on our assay turnaround at the moment down in South America. So we have about 26 outstanding drill holes to release to the market. But as you can see on this long section, the deposit is holding together very, very well. We've extended that high-grade core, which started to converge at depth in our early diamond drilling, and we've extended that now all the way through to surface. We're starting to now push the extents towards the south, and what we're seeing is a very, very strong continuity of mineralisation over that initial discovery footprint that we've been focusing on. The drilling is now starting to move towards the south, and we'll start to push extensions, and the company will be talking about some of the work that we've been doing outside of this footprint. What we really like in all of these drill results is the high-grade component. We're now stacking up multiple intersections across the top of this deposit at circa 0.7 to 0.8% copper equivalent bulk grade. So to put that into context, that's material that's about 30% higher, 35% higher than the head grade of Costa Fuego's production and mine schedule to the north. So we see a high-grade starter pit coming off the top of this Verde discovery, and then we see a much larger pit opening up and taking the extents of what we'll be putting out at the end of the year. So when you have so many drill holes that are not released, you're also looking at what the drill holes that you've just completed look like, and we like what we're seeing. We really like the up-dip drilling across the top of this thing, and also now seeing some very wide intersections out to the east, as you can see in this cross-section starting to be intersected. So this is still quite early in the discovery phase, and I guess the company is really concentrating on that high-grade open pit component that we're looking to integrate into our Costa Fuego mine plan in the early years. So the first thing that Verde does for us, it produces a really material increase to our resource. We have some 85% of our resource base in measured and indicated, a circa 1 billion tonne resource, which stands prominently within the top 10 undeveloped copper resources of the world that the majors don't own. And we're likely to see Costa Fuego take about a 50% jump up in that pecking order. For Costa Fuego on a project layout basis, what this means is that Verde has been contemplated to provide early open pit feed into central processing to the north at Productora, pushing back the development of Cortadera as an additional bulk satellite, and providing what we believe will be the final form that we submit in our EIA next year, which is a project that is going to push towards 30 years mine life and some 100 to 150,000 tonne per annum copper equivalent profile. So a massive amount of metal production out of this hub. So our primary timelines that we're moving towards is all about that submission of an EIA next year, opening up FID in 29 and first production in 31 for what is one of only 5 projects in the independent space capable of putting out this kind of metal. The pre-feasibility that went out now 15 months ago at long-term prices of $4.30 per pound copper, $22.80 gold, seems a long time ago now. So we had a project that was a bottom quartile capital intensity, so very competitive down on the coastline at low altitude, only requiring seawater to process, a very low operating costs, 20-year mine life, 4.5-year payback. What Verde's contribution is likely to do is transform these economics. We see that payback being pulled down towards 2.5 years, our post-tax NPV of 1.2 billion going over 2 billion, and that 20 years mine life pushing up for very little additional capital. And so that is very, very transformative to position the company into the final feasibility, to also take the advantage of the continued strength in both copper and gold price since those studies were put out, and establish ourselves well within the top independent copper developers by leverage, by capital intensity, and certainly by operating cost and scale. We've had a very, very large focus on communities and social integration by this company for well over a decade. Our community run-up towards the submission of our EIA has meant that Hot Chili has a very, very strong standing within the community, and our recent surveys have suggested. And that is going to be a really key part of Hot Chili's strategy towards receiving its final permit approval. The ability for Hot Chili not just to be a new large mining project popping up in the Atacama, but to be a mining project that is going to bring water to the Huasco region on an industrial scale makes the company very unique. So Huasco Water and what we've done with our water rights in the region, which we have the only water license in this region, looks set to differentiate the company further through its social integration approach. From the business side of things, Huasco Water is a fantastic opportunity for the company. It's so unique to have a strategic asset that you have the ability to potentially monetize to pay for the development of a copper project. So you don't hear these stories very often. We see a growing trend of outsourcing of industrial infrastructure in the Chilean mining sector, most recently by our friends at BHP on their electrical transmission, and talking about a very similar concept as to how they get water all the way up into the Andes for Vicuña. So this is one license, the only license in the region. It took 10 years to secure. It's shortly about to be joined by a second maritime license. Importantly, that allows us to look at a 2-step approach: the provision of seawater for Costa Fuego, which has better recoveries, and we're very lucky to have that right on the metallurgy. And then we'll have an opportunity for a large regional desalination water business that involves some of the biggest names in the industry, and providing them earlier access to water to a distribution point right next to these existing mines. So the pre-feasibility that was put out 15 months ago on the water looked at that seawater and that scaled desalination water opportunity and what that might mean to potential strategic water investors and to off-takers in the area looking for access to water now that you're not allowed to take water out of the ground in the Atacama Desert in Chile. So the foresight to be able to secure these licenses over a decade ago, and now the ability to be able to be a key enabler within the region is certainly setting Hot Chili apart on its social approach, but most importantly on our capital approach. So just finishing with some of the team of Hot Chili that have driven this company for over a decade towards this outcome. In 2 years, we'll be sitting with an FID on a project which you hear about, these big projects that take 21 years to be developed through from discovery to production. And there are not many companies that make this transition. They're really considered unicorns. It's a Herculean effort. But the persistence of the team that has got us here is all about now finishing the job in this final stage. So led by Stuart Matthews, who came across after his retirement at Goldfields, building 5 large mines around the world and transforming the Goldfields production base. Stuart leads the board as chair, and we have some very, very strong board members in Roberto Andraca and Mark Jameson, and now Fiona Van Meneen. And also very lucky to have our Executive Vice President, Jose Ignacio, at the conference, who has been by my side as we've built Hot Chili to this position. So what we've got in store for the market this year is a lot of drilling results. 3 drill rigs on the ground, a 4th arriving. We have a key catalyst coming towards the end of the year in a major resource boost. And then we will see the fruits of that success play out in a restated pre-feasibility while our team is preparing that EIA to be submitted. So major project milestones, and I imagine that we'll probably continue to see Hot Chili's price appreciate as we move into this new copper cycle. Thank you.